Leicester City already beat the 5,000 to 1 odds of winning the Premier League. So should fans bet on the Foxes next year? The Steinbrenners aren't happy. Does that mean Joe Girardi will be shown the door? And who is the famous heir who's looking to cash in on the sneaker game? This is SI Now. Hey there, welcome to SI Now. It's Wednesday, May the 4th, and I'm Maggie Gray. Now that the calendar has flipped to May, it's not just the weather that's getting warmer. For a few managers, their seats may be heating up as well. Yes, Ben Reiter is here to talk about embattled managers, Joe Girardi, Freddie Gonzalez, John Gibbons, just to name three. And Ben, let's start with Joe Girardi. Brian Cashman, the GM of the Yankees, came out and said the Steinbrenners are not happy. You wouldn't like them when they're angry. Would they make a change mid-season?
They might. It seems early to start talking about this stuff, right? But let's look at last season. On May 3rd, the Brewers filed Ron Renneke. 2 weeks later, the Marlins got rid of Mike Redmond. You never like to speculate about someone's job security like this, but they're not going to fire their players when things go wrong. The manager's the easiest change to make. For the Yankees, things have gone very wrong so far. They've lost 6 straight games. They're 8-16. They're not scoring any runs. 82 runs scored, the worst in the AL. Their pitching staff is thin. Everything's going wrong. You wonder if this finally is when the Steinbrenners say, okay, it's time to blow things up. It's time to rebuild. And you wonder if Joe Girardi is going to last through that.
Is managing the real issue here, or is it how the roster is constructed?
Probably more of the latter. It usually is more of the latter, to be honest. The manager is the easier thing to change. But yeah, you look at the Yankees, average age of 29. Now Alex Rodriguez, who they're counting on at age 40 to be one of their primary power sources, has a strained hamstring, might be headed to the DL. Things are circling the drain a little bit in New York, and you do wonder if Joe Girardi is going to be one of the people to take the fall in the Bronx. As
for John Gibbons, if Toronto is going to make a change, what type of manager do you think they would want to bring in?
Well, I think they might want to bring in somebody like Bud Black, somebody good around veterans, somebody who is good with the pitching staff. You look at the Blue Jays pitching staff, it's really disappointed. Just last night, the bullpen got its first win of the season, improving its record to 1-9. I really think this is also about the fact that there's a new regime in the front office in Toronto. Mark Shapiro as the team president, Ross Atkins as the GM. They didn't hire John Gibbons. They probably have less allegiance to him than the former regime did.
Okay, and as for Freddie Gonzalez down in Atlanta, is he part of the long-term plans for the Braves? Because we know with Atlanta, it's not about the short term. It's about the long view as they're rebuilding.
It's a rough business. It's not fair to Freddie Gonzalez. Look at the talent he has on the Major League roster right now. Not a lot there. However, 7-19 is probably worse than the Braves front office even thought it would do. Of course, they had one bright spot against the Mets, with a one-hitter last night. But other than that, things have just gone very poorly. Surely the Braves front office is thinking, is Freddie Gonzalez the man, not just now, but into the future as they do start bringing up what's really a great group of young prospects opening a new ballpark next year. They're going to have to decide if Freddie Gonzalez is going to be that guy.
Okay, so those are the managers on the hot seat. There are a few managers. It's starting to warm up a little bit. Maybe they have some wiggle room. If they put together a good season, perhaps they'd be able to stick around. And one of those is A.J. Hinch of the Houston Astros. Now, we put a lot of hype around the Astros before the season began. Did Hinch not do a good enough job of tempering down that hype within his own clubhouse?
It's hard to say. One thing is for certain, Maggie, is the Astros are the single most disappointing team in baseball. Of course, Sports Illustrated magazine's pick to win the World Series. They're 9-18 now.
Whoops.
I don't think it's so much a character type of thing for A.J. Hinch. I think it's really the pitching staff has just significantly underperformed. Even Dallas Keuchel, the returning Cy Young winner, has had an off year. 134 runs allowed, the most in the AL. What was really a strength last year, the pitching staff, has suddenly turned into a weakness. I think Hinch will be afforded much more time by the front office. He's on board with their plan. He's really linked in with the GM, Jeff Luhnow. He'll be given plenty of time to turn it around what's a great core of young players, starting with Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa.
Absolutely. Okay, Arizona, another manager who's getting some wiggle room with Chip Hale. Listen, ownership made huge investments into this team. Do you think they're going to be patient with Chip Hale, or do they want to see improvements now?
12-16 start is certainly not promising, but look at what Chip Hale has had to deal with so far this year. First of all, his second best player, A.J. Pollock, lost for the season in the last days of spring training. That is a tough place to start. Zach Greinke has an ERA over 5.5. Shelby Miller, their other big pitching import, has an ERA over 8.5. As bad as things have been, they're still 4 games under 500. No reason to blow things up yet. Plenty of potential here. I think Chip Hale will be given a leash here.
Okay, let's move away from the managers for a moment. You also already said the Astros' single biggest disappointment of the season so far. On the flip side, let's go positive. Who has had an unexpected start that's really impressed you?
This is the easy one, Maggie. Philadelphia Phillies, right? Expected to be the worst team by far in the majors by many people. Here you're looking at them, they're 16-11, right? They got the 4th best record in the National League. This is shocking. Few reasons to be concerned. Their run differential doesn't exactly match up with their record. They've actually been outscored by 22 runs. That sort of situation doesn't usually hold up as far as maintaining a winning record while having that happen. But hey, things are looking promising in Philadelphia. They've got a pitching staff that's striking out way more than one batter per inning. They've got a lot of young talent, young arms that are already making a mark in the major leagues. The minor league system is pretty stacked. A lot of people thought, hey, this is going to be a 3-year turnaround at least, 3 years in the wilderness for the Phillies. Could be much, much less than that.
Can't wait for Carson Wentz to throw out that first pitch. It's got to be happening soon. All right, let's take a look at today's SI Now Adrenaline Performance presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Today's performance belongs to Cubs pitcher Jake Arrieta. The righty is still undefeated, turning in 7 scoreless innings against the Pirates on Tuesday night. The reigning Cy Young winner moves to 6-0 with a sub-1 ERA. Ben, what has keyed Arrieta's success this season?
Man, the beast, right? And it's not just this season, of course. It's not just last season. For the past 3.5 years in Chicago, he's really been excellent with a 2.14 ERA. Coming off 3.5 years in Baltimore with a 5.46 ERA. It's like you flipped a switch, right? Perhaps a change of scenery has something to do with it. I just really think this is a late bloomer who discovered his cutter, one of the nastiest pitches in the league. Baltimore obviously wishes they could have figured him out. They couldn't, but their loss is certainly the Cubs' game. This guy is, without question, the best pitcher in baseball right now, and I know Clayton Kershaw exists as well.
Yeah, that is saying something for sure. Ben Reiter, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Maggie.
All right, coming up, what's it like to be in Michael Jordan's trophy room? There's a new way to get closer to MJ than ever before. We'll tell you about it next. Welcome back to SI Now. In basketball's sneaker culture, having your own signature shoe can bring more money and street cred than having a ring. For example, did you know that Drew Holiday has a shoe? Or Josh Smith? Well, now you don't even need to have made it to the league to cash in on the shoe game. Marcus Jordan, the second oldest of Michael Jordan's 5 children, is launching a new branch of the Jordan brand. It's called Trophy Room, modeled after his father's famous trophy cases. Tim Newcomb has written about the line. He joins me now. Okay, Tim, you've interviewed players that launched sneaker brands like Kobe Bryant and Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson. What would you say distinguishes what Marcus Jordan is doing compared to those athletes?
Marcus is doing something a little bit different than the athletes in that it's more of a fashion angle with a collaboration with Jordan Brand. able to bring some of his own fashion sense and some of his own ideas to a very well-established line.
Okay, so how involved is Michael Jordan going to be in this project?
Marcus says that his dad was there helping him along the way as this business venture got started, but the day-to-day operations, that's on Marcus. At the same time, he's quick to point out that he knows his dad's there for him anytime he has a question. He may ring him up every day through this process.
What would you say is the biggest differences that sneakerheads will notice between Marcus's product and others on the market?
Well, this will be Jordan brand product, so that gives Marcus a leg up in collaboration. Anybody who's familiar with the sneaker culture knows that getting a collaboration with the Jordan brand is a pretty major accomplishment. So Marcus being in tune, obviously, with all things Jordan, being he is a Jordan himself, he'll have some unique insight, I'm sure, from growing up and different fashion ideas that he's gotten from his dad and being in that original trophy room in the Chicago house. It'll be interesting to see what kind of collaborations Marcus and Jordan brand are able to come up with, either on maybe a new line or maybe a retro of the Air Jordan line. We're not quite sure yet.
Okay, so what do you take from a trophy room? How do you turn that into a fashion line?
Well, Trophy Room, he'll have some of his own product under the Trophy Room line, and he's creating a boutique in Florida, which is not necessarily known as a hotbed for sneaker boutiques, and he'll be able to put his own spin on it. And obviously, with the Marcus Jordan name and the history and the family, he has a good leg up to get a good start.
Do you see this as a line and a product that is going to have immediate success, or do you think it's going to have a slower run to gain fans and to get popular?
I think he'll have some immediate success, from sneakerheads right from the start. Obviously, Trophy Room is more than just Trophy Room. He's going to have Jordan brand product that's not a collaboration. He's going to have quite a bit of Nike product that's not a collaboration. So in a sense, this is still a retail store that will be selling Nike and Jordan brand product, but giving him a little bit of room to create a little bit with his own line will give him an option of starting a little bit slower if he needs to.
You mentioned that Michael Jordan is going to be involved in this launch and in the line. You talked to Marcus about it. So what is his response to those who think that he's just capitalizing off his famous father?
He went to school, he got his degree, and he says he's learning a lot every day just about business and the decisions that have to be made, and he's doing this on his own. This is his project and a big project at that, and he's working hard at it. At the same time, he does have quite the in with the Jordan brand, obviously. So in that regard, he has a unique angle, but he is putting in the work himself.
How much pressure does he feel in continuing the success of the Jordan brand?
I don't know that there's a lot of pressure in that for him. He's not going out and creating new Air Jordan, the 31 would be the next one. He's not going out and choosing which ones to retro. He's just going to work on a few collaborations with the brand. So this is not something where he's employed by Nike, employed by Jordan. This is, think of it as a fashion collaboration with a brand that he's very well in tune with.
All right, very exciting. And for sneakerheads out there, I'm sure exciting for them as well. Tim Newcomb, Tim, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Up next, the Capitals and Penguins are out for blood. Can this series get even more nasty? We're talking hockey next. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to SI Now. The Capitals and Penguins series has gotten chippy, with two players, Brooks Orpik and Chris Letang, suspended a total of 4 games. Will the tone of the series change now that the players have been sidelined by the league? Billy Jaffe is an analyst for NHL Network, also on the Roenick Life podcast with Jeremy Roenick. He joins us now. Billy, are you expecting more bad blood throughout this series, or will the suspensions eliminate the dirty play?
Well, I expect the intensity to be there. I guess the question is the rational thought process there. Now, things happen so quickly in the games, Maggie. You know, sometimes just accidents do happen. Both of these plays that led to suspension, in particular the Orpik hit, were plays that could have been avoided. Does it settle down? I think maybe a little bit because of, obviously it's the enormity of the situation, what's going on for both of these teams. But I do think that the nastiness, just the overall playoff verve will continue between these two. That's what we wanted. And, as fans, right? I mean, you want to keep players safe as possible, but we wanted a crazy, physical, intense series, and we're getting it. You need to be a little smarter about it.
We all thought that this could be an Eastern Conference final. So with that in mind, who has more to lose in this series, the Penguins or the Capitals?
No question, it's the Capitals. No question. Given the regular season dominance for the Capitals and winning the President's Trophy with what was about 3 weeks left or so in the regular season, and doing everything that was asked of them, it's the Penguins who. All of a sudden, the Penguins are a team that everybody was like, wow, they weren't great during the regular season, but then Mike Sullivan comes in the second half, they were awesome. And, everything else it's kind of almost like a feel-good story. There's definitely higher expectation coming into the season and throughout the season for the Washington Caps. So if you look at it, you say, they're the big boys this year. They've got the most to lose.
It's funny because usually the Penguins are the Goliath in this scenario,
Exactly.
and it's really very odd to be rooting for Goliath or calling them the underdogs. Now, of course, we know Penguins goalie Marc-Andre Fleury. He was in uniform for Game 3, Billy, but clearly the rookie Matt Murray has the hot hand. Will we see Fleury come back at all in these playoffs?
You know what? I can't even look at past game 4. But you will see Matt Murray start Game 4. With that said, if Matt Murray continues to play at the level he's playing, you don't change it. But it's sure nice now for the Pittsburgh Penguins, with Marc-Andre Fleury being cleared to play, that if Matt Murray has a rookie hiccup or a slip-up, whatever you want to call it, then then there's a chance you'd see Fleury. But as far as playoff goes, and the question of will we see him, who knows how much further they go. If the Pittsburgh Penguins end up winning this series against Washington in 5 or 6 games, more like probably 6 or 7 is what my instinct tells me. But and Matt Murray's the goalie of record, there's probably a good chance you'll see him continuing. But it's so cliche, Maggie, but it's game by game. That's what it comes down to in these playoffs.
Okay, let's move over to the Lightning and the Islanders series and controversy on a potential late hit. Boyle on Thomas Hickey. It led to Tampa Bay's game-winning goal in overtime. We know there will be no suspensions for Boyle, but will there be retaliation by the Islanders in Game 4?
No. If there is, then they've lost that battle. I mean, this is one hit in a game, which, by the way, shouldn't have been suspendable or anything. I know there were people calling for it, but that you're reaching for one play in a game that saw the Islanders. They crapped out. They had this game and they lost it. I love the way that the Tampa Bay Lightning responded each time the Islanders, stepped up and did something well. But the Islanders lost the game not because of a hit Brian Boyle on Thomas Hickey. They lost the game because they didn't get the puck out of their own zone at the end of the game, and then come overtime, the Tampa Bay Lightning just, Kuznetsov was great at the end of the game. Kucherov, beg your pardon, was great. And, come overtime, they did what they had to do, and the Islanders didn't. If there's any retaliation for that, then the Islanders have lost their focus. You can't play like that. Again, you got to move on from that. If you want to quote unquote talk about retaliation, you take the guy's number, you hit him well, or you save something for the regular season.
Billy, is this lack of playoff experience being exposed in the Islanders?
Perhaps a little bit, and yeah, I can see a little bit of that. Perhaps, they're a team that, except for Litsky and maybe one other player. Forgive me for not. I don't have their roster in front of me, but the guy's not having played in the second round of the playoffs before. It's funny. We keep thinking, or we keep hearing, we being the media, about how they're a young team, but yet a lot of these guys are veteran players now. Kyle Poso's been around for 8 to 10 years now, and John Tavares 6 years. And you know what I mean? These aren't second-year players. But playoff-wise, yes, they're a very young team, no question about it.
Oh, you mentioned Tavares. We believe he'd be in the mix for the Conn Smythe Award. It's given to the MVP of the playoffs. But if you were to pick one player now, Billy, that should get that Conn Smythe Award for their play up to this point, who's your choice?
Oh, man, there's been a few that have been really good. A few that come to mind besides John Tavares right away. How about Joe Pavelski of the San Jose Sharks? Martin Jones for a while now. I know they lost in Game 3 to the Nashville Predators, but he's been really darn good. Because these series aren't done yet, it's hard to pick up one. I was saying Jamie Benn. What does he have now? What is it? Something like 12 points in his first 9 games. I mean, that's sick. That's unbelievable stuff right there. And Tavares is just behind him with 11 points in that regard. So, I mean, those are players, the Benns, the Tavareses. I've loved what Joe Pavelski has done. He hasn't put up as many points, but I think he's been excellent. Martin Jones has been excellent. So there's a couple of players. I can't anoint one of them just yet because we're in the middle of round 2, and we don't know if their teams have won the series yet or not.
Oh, Billy, never too early to look ahead and make some too early predictions for the Conn Smythe. Okay, let's go to the coaching carousel for a moment because it looks like jobs are opening up each day as clubs are looking to overhaul their teams now. Bruce Boudreau fired by the Ducks. Where's he going to land next?
Well, he's going to be sought after. He's already spoken with the Minnesota Wild. He'll speak with the Ottawa Senators. And I'm guessing Calgary, unless Calgary, and from what I keep hearing, Calgary is more than happy to take their time with their search. I think Calgary might reach out to him, but I don't see him ending up in Calgary. It leads me to believe Minnesota or Ottawa. And I think when it's all said and done, it'll be the Ottawa Senators. Even though Ottawa talks about wanting, they want to be much better defensively structured. Well, yes, Bruce Boudreau helped change his team in Anaheim this past season from much more free-flowing offensive to a team winning 1-goal games, 2-0, 2-1 type thing. He had a lot of help there, there's nothing wrong with it, using your assistant coaches to help out there. I still don't know if I would term Bruce Boudreau the man that they call Gabby. And by the way, a person that I just love dealing with, absolutely love him. He's a phenomenal person to talk hockey with all the time. I don't know if he'd be considered him a hardcore defensive coach. Maybe this year, in the second half of the season, he'll earn that title, given the fact that his team was stellar defensively with great goals against average.
All right, very good. Billy Jaffe, he's the co-host of the Roenick Life podcast. We can only imagine some of the topics that you guys get into on that podcast. A great listen for sure, and also NHL Network. Billy, thanks so much for the time. We'll catch up with you, and we're going to nail you down on that Conn Smythe Award winner soon, okay?
You got it, no problem. It'll be one of those guys right now, and then I can always change it next time.
You can always change.
Right,
we'll give you creative license. Thank you, Billy. All right, up next, now that they've beaten the 5,000-1 odds of winning the Premier League, should you be betting on Leicester City again next season? SI Now will be right back. Wow, what a scene. That is Leicester City celebrating their Premier League win. The Foxes were a 5,000-1 shot and improbably pulled off the biggest upset in sports history. SI senior soccer writer Grant Wahl is here. Okay, Grant, now that we've had about 24, 48 hours to digest this, really, what is the impact that this win is going to have on the Premier League?
I think it will have a far-reaching impact into the future because coming into this season, none of us, I didn't anticipate that anyone outside of the Big Four, Big Five teams in the Premier League even had a chance to win the league. Leicester City wasn't even among the candidates in the next 5 to 6 teams. I had them going down in relegation in my predictions for this season. So I think in the future now, people are going to be thinking maybe other teams can do this in the Premier League, especially because there's so much more TV money coming in next year. Even the worst Premier League team is going to have more money coming in than Leicester's getting for winning the championship of the Premier League this season.
So everyone's collectively getting richer. The rising tide lifts all the boats. But is Leicester City, are they set up to be a Premier League power, or was this just a special season?
I think it's more likely that they will not be a powerhouse in the Premier League moving forward, that this will be a one-off. But I'm not certain about that. They're going to be in Champions League next year, and they're going to have so much money coming in from the Premier League TV deal, but also from UEFA and the Champions League money that comes in. The big question is, can they hold on to their 3 stars? Now, Jamie Vardy's extended his contract already, but Riyad Mahrez and N'Golo Kante are going to have some really big clubs come in for them this offseason. And the question is, do they want to stay in Leicester? So often it's about the player's decision because the money's going to be big there, but Leicester will have some.
Of course, a lot of this story was the betting line, the 5,000 to 1. So if we're going to be betting on next year's Premier League champion, Grant, who should we be placing our money on?
Well, Burnley, recently promoted this week for next season, is a 5,000 to 1 shot.
Let it ride.
So, I'm very curious to see what happens here. I put out a tweet yesterday. Who are we going to pick for Premier League champion next season? Because there's going to be a lot more teams that are in that discussion just because of what Leicester did this season.
Okay, but you think the Spurs have a good shot?
I do think Tottenham is a team that this season could have made a run to win this. They have a lot of good young players. Harry Kane, Dele Alli, a lot of young English guys who are going to see in the Euro this summer. And I think they could use that as a building block to maybe take the next step the next year. Mauricio Pochettino is a great young manager. He's already extending his contract with Spurs.
Looking at Champions League, Bayern Munich, they are eliminated in the semifinals. Pep Guardiola, his 3rd season as the coach. How would you grade his performance?
Well, there are some people who are going to view it as a failure that Pep Guardiola in his 3 seasons at Bayern Munich did not win a single UEFA Champions League, and his predecessor, Jupp Heynckes, did the season before Pep arrived. I think that's a little harsh on Guardiola because he has come into Bayern Munich, really changed the way they go about playing and doing things every day. Everyone I've spoken to at Bayern Munich is extremely impressed with how he has changed the culture inside an already successful club. They've won Bundesliga titles, they've won cup titles inside the country. But yes, there are things that Guardiola could have done better in the semifinals the last 3 years, and there are going to be people who say this was a failure of sorts, that now he's leaving for Manchester City next year, not having won a Champions League. I still think it's disappointing, huge disappointment for him in Bayern Munich, but you can't view what he's done as a failure.
Great, your golazo, something to look forward to this week in the world of soccer?
Look into Spain, because they are playing all 10 games this week at the same time, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. It's the next to the last week of the season. You've got Barcelona and Atletico Madrid tied on points atop the league. Real Madrid just 1 point behind, and so you're going to be looking at different games. Hopefully, they'll kind of be going between one game to the next to see what's going on this weekend and set up a terrific final week.
Get your man cave ready. Set the DVR. Muy bien all around. Grant Wahl, thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, and that's going to do it for today's episode of SI Now. We will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. But until then, keep up with all the latest sports news on SI.com. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Plenty of good stuff there. We're at SI Now Live. We'll see you tomorrow.